Hey everybody, this is Larry with Leading Edge, and today we're going to go over setting the G54 through G59 coordinate offsets. We're going to start off using a wobbler edge finder where we're going to set the upper left portion of the sheet you see in the picture, and we're going to set the lower right coordinate, and we're going to use that as G54 in the upper left and G55 in the lower right. Then we're going to show you really quickly how to set your other coordinate axis. We're using just a really quick kind of move over, it looks close enough kind of thing. So if you want to just machine a quick part, you can set your 0 points that way. And what we'll do then is we'll just swap over to a nice pointed tool and we'll set it off on the corners and show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and roll into this and get started. As you see, we're using our lead controller here. On the right hand side, you can see all of the current active settings on the machine. You've got your overrides, feed, rapid, and spindle here on the right hand side, lower right. And we're going to go over all this in a very detailed video that'll be released at the same time as this one here. We just wanted to kind of show you how to jump into setting the fixture offsets. So first thing we can do is we go up at the top. You can access any of your menus up here either by tapping on them and selecting what you want to do, or you can do, in this case would be a Control M modifier. So you do Control plus M and that'll bring up the shortcut window. There will be on-screen callouts, so hopefully if you follow along here you can see the on-screen callouts, and that'll give you an advantage that way as well. So in order for a wobbler to work, we've got to spin it up somewhere between 1200 and 1500 RPM. So we're going to select 1500 RPM and we're going to code that in here. Speed 1500 M3. And that is our, that means spindle speed at 1500 RPM, and we're gonna spin clockwise. So now when we hit enter, our spindle should spin up, and you should see the wobbler spinning on the edge there. You'll see that very edge of the wobbler there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close out of the manual data input window, and we're gonna open up our jog menu by doing Control J. With Control Jog Menu or the jogging menu, you see on the left-hand side your incremental positions. By hitting the dividing key on your number pad, you can move the numbers up and down, or the resolution up or down. And this is in base 10 coordinates here. Using your left and right arrow keys controls the direction of the head of the machine. Remember, the table is moving, but it's the head you're concerned about. So if I want to move the head in negative X, I move negative X. If I want to move the head to positive X, I move positive X using the right arrow key. Just remember, it's the hardest thing for everybody here, and I highly suggest making a block just like this, where it gives you your X negative, X positive, Y positive, and Y negative on there. It makes it really easy to teach how to set up. And as a matter of fact, when we bring in new people and teach them how to set up our work coordinate system on our full-size machines, this is exactly what I have them do. So then they can practice all day long and they can set all the coordinates on it. So what we're going to do here is we're in a 1-inch movements, and we're going to jog up to the top of the sheet here, and I'm going to move it down to 100 thousandths movement, and I'm going to bring us a little bit closer to the surface. Now we're going to move up. I like to touch off on the on any workpiece. I like to touch off somewhere in the middle and along the edge. That way, if there's any variance there, you're kind of splitting the difference. So right now we're going to pop our wobbler over so we get a little bit more wobble out of it, and then we're going to bring it down. With a wobbler, don't worry about getting your hands down there. It's actually what it's for. You're supposed to pop that loose and you'll see the wobble. And right now you're going to see why and how you use that wobbler. So we're going to jog down 10 thousandths. Actually, we'll leave it in 100 thousandths because I think we're still high enough off the work. And we'll bring that down probably 200 thousandths, maybe one more. And we'll bring it in negative Y. We're almost touching the work, so what we want to do is knock it down into 10 thousandths until we just touch the work. And you'll see now that lower wobbler is almost in line, directly in line with the upper shaft there. So now that we are there, we're going to move to our finest movement, which is a thousandths of an inch, and we're going to bump that Y-axis until the wobbler wobbles again. There we go. And now you can see the axis is shifted, so now the wobbler shifted, so now we know that that's right on the edge. So we're going to do Control O, and we're going to open up our offsets menu. We want to make sure we're selected on our G54. For our probe diameter, we're going to put 0.2 inches because that's the diameter of the actual wobbler here, the lower portion of the wobbler that we're touching the edge. and we're on Y positive. As you can see, Y positive is the side we're on. So we're going to select Y positive, and we're going to come down here and say set Y. Now before we do that, I'm going to change over here on the screen from machine coordinate system to work coordinate system. Once I hit set Y, you'll see the Y axis here will zero out, or will clear out to minus 0.1. So here we go, ready? Or actually that's at 0.1 because we're 0.1 inches above the work. So now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to close the offsets menu, and we're going to jog over and touch on the negative X axis. So once again, we're going to go back up. We're going to make sure by clicking on the screen, we're going to make sure that we have focus on that tab menu. We're going to offset to 100 thousandths, or move our movements up to 100 thousandths, and we're going to just clear the work. So let's move up in the Y direction. And now that we're clear, let's move up to 1 inch, and we'll move over to our negative X side. Now that we're close to the edge, let's go ahead and move that back down. And we can move back up. So we want to get somewhere close to the middle here. And that's about as close as we're going to get. Once again, we're going to pop our wobbler off. So we have, and this sometimes takes a couple of hits to get there. So now that we're there, we'll just go ahead and get a little bit finer resolution at 10 thousandths of an inch. And we're going to move in and touch off on the X axis. There we go. We're just barely touching, so we'll move into our finest, and we'll move that in till it just bumps off center. There we go. We're just off center. So now we're going to bring up our control offset menu. So control O, and now we're X negative. We still want to plug in 0.2 inches as the diameter. And when we set X, you should see this jump to negative 0.1. There you go. So now we're going to close this. We're just going to jog the Z up to clear the top of the sheet. We're actually not going to touch the top of the sheet till we get to the next one. I'll show you how to use a feeler gauge for that. This probe isn't meant for that. So let's do increase our movement size to 100 thousandths, and we'll move up in the Z by hitting page up. And then we're going to move over just somewhere on the sheet. And we'll once again move just a finer resolution. We'll do page down. That's probably as close as I feel getting comfortable with that sheet there. Once again, we'll open up our fixture offsets menu. And this time we just want to say set Z. We're not using a feeler gauge here. I'm going to show you how to use a piece of paper on how to do that. So we're going to say set Z. And we're still in G54 mode. Now that we're here, I'm going to close this off. And let's open up our control jog menu, our jogging menu here, and let's move that up just in a random position off of the workpiece. So do page up twice, to the left 3 times, and then up once. So now we're at a random position on the workpiece. Now I want to bring this down to X0, Y0, Z 1/2 of an inch, just to check and make sure that I entered my coordinates correctly. So in order to do that, we're going to bring up our manual data input. Okay, from here, we're going to make sure we're in G54 coordinate system, which we are. Actually, you can see up here, that's the active coordinate system is G54. Once we hit enter, it doesn't change anything, but if we were, we would see that up here. Now we're going to do a rapid movement to G00. We're going to say X0, Y0, Z 0.5 inches. We want to move a 1/2 inch above the work. Get used to putting in your decimal places, and I like to use large letters or the capitalized letters when I'm inputting this. So hit send, and now we should move to the upper left 1/2 inch, and that looks about right to me. So once again, we're going to repeat this process on the bottom. I'm not going to step you through and call out every step, but the concept's the same. Only difference is we're going to switch over to G54 mode, or G55, and we're going to set this as our G55, our second work coordinate offset. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then once we swap tools, then I'll show you how to do a quick corner offset on each one of the corners. Actually, I suppose we could. Once again, we're going to move into the larger menu. Let's just move off of that. And there we are. After we've set that, we're at X0, Y0, Z 100,000ths of an inch above the lower right hand side. Now we're going to roll into swapping tools, and I'm going to show you how to set the corners. We'll do the upper right and the lower left corner as a quick offset, fixture offset. So let's go ahead and we'll change over the tools here, and I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, everybody, this is Larry, and we're back with, now we've changed to a pointed tool here. We've got a chamfer tool in the tool holder. What we're going to do right now is we're going to touch off on the upper right portion of this sheet and the lower left portion of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just do something as if you wanted to set something, like say you just threw a block of material in there and you know you've got plenty of material, you just want to roughly set the corner and get to work on making parts, right? So this isn't something you do in production. We don't do this in production. We want things to be repeatable, absolutely repeatable. But if you want to just slap something on and get to work, this is the quickest way to do that. So we do this in, believe it or not, we do this all the time here at the shop, you know, especially for like one-off parts or something like that. We'll just come over quickly, touch on the upper left or the lower right hand corner or whatever, and then we'll just get right to work. So what we're going to do is just show you the quick and dirty method of how to do this. So we're going to jump up, and on this one here, we're actually going to set these two corners as G56 and G57 offsets to continue working on our G54 through 59 offsets. We won't go as high as the 58 and 59 because you'll get the gist of it after this here, but you'll be able to see where we are on this. So what we want to do is we're going to go and use the jog menu, and we're going to jog over to the upper left corner of the sheet. We'll leave it in our course movement to get over there as fast as possible. And now that we're getting close, let's drop it down to 100,000ths of an inch movements. That's pretty close there. And we're going to move up. That looks about the corner to me right there. We'll bring it down kind of get closer. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So we're gonna pop open our fixture offsets menu by hitting Control O. Our fixture offsets are here. We wanna set our fixture to G56, and we're just gonna say set X and set Y. And you'll see actually what we should do before we go any farther is go to the menu. We'll go to manual data and we'll change our work offset to G56 so you can see that. So let's go to manual input. We'll change this to G56 and hit enter. And now you see that we've reset X and Y there to our 0 point. So let's go ahead and we'll close down on manual data. We're gonna open up our jog menu by hitting Control J. And we're gonna leave it in the course menu. We know we're above the work, so we're gonna move over to the center of the work piece again. Or as close as we can get. Okay, so now that we're in the center, we just wanna set the Z offset here. And I'm gonna use an old machinist trick here, and we're gonna use a piece of paper. This is a thicker piece than normal. It's about 4/1000 of an inch thick, but you can use anything as long as you know what the dimension is. And we're just gonna slide that piece of paper up underneath the tool until we get close to it. So we're gonna go ahead and move into our tighter movement here of 10/1000, and we're gonna jog down until we get close to the paper. Then we'll move down to 1/1000 of an inch. We're probably pretty close there. Now we're gonna switch over to 1/1000 of an inch by hitting our divide key, and we'll just move the piece of paper around and hit jog down until it just grabs that piece of paper. Right there, you see? So now we can still pull the piece of paper out without tearing it, and now we know we're 4/1000 of an inch above that work piece. So we're gonna once again open up our offset menu by hitting Control O. We'll make sure we select our current fixture as G56. We're gonna come down where it says Z-axis feeler gauge, and we're gonna type in 0.004. That's 4/1000 of an inch. Now when I hit set Z, you should see over here on the work coordinate system, that should jump to 4/1000 of an inch. There we go. So now we know where 0 is on the top there. And to prove it, we're gonna open up our manual data input screen. Actually, let's do a jog. We're gonna jog off the workpiece, Control J. We're gonna move it up. There, and now we're just at a random spot here. Now let's go to manual data, and we're gonna move this to, I'm feeling pretty confident here, so why don't we move it to, we're gonna wrap it over, say X0, Y0, and we're gonna do Z 10/1000. So we're gonna be right at the workpiece, just above the workpiece. Hit enter. There you go. Looks about 10/1000 to me. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to jog down a little lower left, and we're going to set that as the G57 offset. So let's go ahead and go back to our jog menu. And we'll move up off the workpiece. And now we'll jog down to the X-axis. And we're pretty close there, but I want to get a little bit closer. And I'd say that's about X0, Y0. So let's go ahead and open up our fixture offsets table by hitting Control O. Once again, we don't have to worry about which side we're on because we're just setting the point to exactly where we want. Set this as a G57. And once again, we're gonna set X and Y. But before we do that, let me go ahead and change this to, I wanna do manual data, and we're gonna change it over to G57 just so that as I do it in real time, you'll see it. So G57, you'll see it changes to our current work offset as G57 up here. That's our active work offset. We'll do Control O for our offsets and make sure we're at select fixture G57. And we're gonna say set X, set Y. Those will zero out The X zeroed out at 1/10 is because it has to do with the stepper motors. Stepper motors don't calculate exactly, when you're jogging around, they don't calculate the exact movement. So you might be 1/10 of an inch here, plus or minus here. Sometimes it helps by hitting set X again, but as of right now, we're just gonna leave that. 1/10 is nothing to be off. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna close this menu here. And we're gonna move up and over, and we're gonna reset that. We're gonna once again touch off that workpiece, or that the tool tip to the workpiece. So we'll do our Control J to do our jog offset. We'll move up at 100 thousandths. And then we're gonna jog over somewhere on the workpiece towards the center. I like to do the center of the workpiece because if there's any variance in the sheet thickness, and the same thing with along the edge, especially when you're doing a quick set off like this, if you touch off on any of the edges there, then it'll compensate for any kind of miss setup, whether it's slightly cockeyed or whatever. But this also, if you set off at the center of the sheet, ideally you're hitting at the center of the positive and negative, most positive and negative portion of that workpiece. So now we're over here in the middle. Once again, we're gonna slide our piece of paper underneath. We'll put it down into 10 thousandths inch jog, and then we're gonna just slowly bring it down just above that workpiece. We're pretty close there, and then we're gonna move in 1/1000th of an inch, and just until it grabs the paper. So once again, there we go. It just barely grabbed that piece of paper, and now we can offset that by 4/1000ths of an inch. So once again, we're gonna go over to our offsets menu, Control O. We're gonna select our fixture, which is G57. We're gonna put in a 4/1000ths as our fixture gauge, or our feeler gauge, and we're gonna say set Z. And now we're at 4/1000ths. So now if I go to manual data input, well, let's do this. We'll once again Control Jog, and we're gonna move up in Z. We'll leave it there. We don't have to move anywhere else. That's good enough. We'll do over to our manual data input. And we're gonna say rapid over to X0, Y0, Z, 10,000ths or 100,000ths. Let's do 10,000ths again. There you go. And that's how you just quick and dirty set up a fixture offset. So if there's any questions, feel free to shoot us a comment in the comment section below. Make sure you click like and subscribe, and be sure to hit that alarm bell so that you know whenever we post a new video. Thanks.